So I'm going to try to give you some of my thoughts about how to use visual tools. Primarily that's through PowerPoint, but increasingly it's through movies. And as far as auditory tools are concerned, I know there's some note-taking devices that some people use. I don't really do much of that, so I'm not going to talk to you about that. Going back to the how do you give a good talk. If you don't know about a certain topic, don't try to BS it. So I'll just talk to you about what I found to be helpful, both in giving presentations and also as a way of organizing information as a learning tool. So the purpose of visual tools is foremost and is to present information to an audience. The second way is for use as note-taking. So how can these two things work together? I think it's really useful for trainees and for medical students to take notes in a way that they can quickly format it and then use it as a presentation. So if it's built around a case, for instance, if you're watching a case or preparing for a case, if you can do that and make a PowerPoint presentation around a specific case in preparation, that'll do you a lot more good in the future. You can then add the movie to it later on and make some notes as well on that same PowerPoint. What this allows you to do is, for instance, for an olfactory groove meningioma, you may see that case once a month, institution, and if you see it once a month, as a resident, the chances of you getting that case the subsequent month is very low. Most likely you'll see that maybe 6 months from now. So trying to remember all the other specific steps that go into and the anatomy that goes into that specific operation may be difficult. And so being able to easily refer back to something electronic, I think, is really important. The other purpose, the other goal for visual tools is to be somewhat eye-catching. You have to maintain people's interest throughout it. However, it should be engaging and also professional. Sometimes it can be eye-catching and a little unprofessional. It borders on being a little sophomoric as well sometimes, so that's a little bit of a balance. It should be detailed, but not so detailed that you lose your audience, and also the functionality. So one of the ways that I think it's very useful to use PowerPoints in this day and age to really communicate things is through hyperlinking. And I don't know if you guys have tried this or used this functionality on PowerPoint before, but one of it's really nice. You can hyperlink a picture. You can hyperlink a website or text. For instance, this one, if I click on it, it'll take me to the National Hospital website and the agenda for the course today. You can do the same thing with a picture, so you can hyperlink a picture and that'll be able to take you to a website. So obviously these things, I think as internet speeds improve, this will be something more for real-time use. But right now I use this primarily as a method of note-taking. So I'll link it to either the Roton Atlas or some of the online books that are available to refresh the anatomy. So how do you do this? You basically highlight whatever you'd like to hyperlink. You right-click. That pulls up this little box here. You click on this little hyperlink section there, and it brings up this box. And here you can either anchor it to a file. So there's these different things here: document, web page. You select that, and then you can find the file. So for instance, if you've downloaded a PDF of an article that pertains to the topic that you're trying to present on, you can hyperlink that PDF, and then when you click on that hyperlink in your presentation, it'll pull up that PDF file, for instance. Or here you can type in the link that you want to go to. The other thing that I think is very, very important and useful is to embed another PowerPoint. So what you can do is you can link this picture to another PowerPoint presentation. So if I click on this, this wasn't working a second ago. So clearly that didn't work properly, but let's see if I can show you how I do it. So I'd right click here. know, so I click on hyperlink, and it brings up my files here. And I pull up the patient's axial image, the other presentation that I made. Now when I go to this, hopefully it works. And what it allows me to do is actually stack the entire DICOM images, and so I can easily scroll through this and see the entire patient's MRI. This is really important, I think, for complex tumors. If you just provide one image, it doesn't give you the full understanding of what's going on. For instance, here you can see that there's extension to the sinus. You can also see that it's encroaching upon the carotid. You can see it goes into the clival region here a little bit. It's involving the medial and middle third of the sphenoid. It goes down to the temporal cord. All of this anatomy is a little bit different and unique. Also important. You can see its involvement with the M1 here also. And so for complicated tumors or lesions, it's important to be able to demonstrate to your audience in a dynamic way the imaging. And so nowadays, a lot of the imaging is available as DICOMs, and you can easily take all those DICOMs and stack them into a PowerPoint presentation, and you can do that in multiple planes. So I showed you how, since my link was broken, I showed you how I did that, so I'll just skip through this part. Last thing is, if you don't have access to being able to stack the DICOM images, then you can make a movie, and then you can embed your movie into the PowerPoint. If you have it electronically, you can create a screen recording using QuickTime or Windows Media Player. You can actually record whatever's on your screen as you scroll through the images. So how you would do that is you would select the area of your screen, you would click New Screen Recording, it would pop up a window like this. You press Record, select the screen area. For instance, it'll pop up a link like this, drag to record the part of the screen. So I drag to record this part, and then you hit start recording. As you scroll through that part of your that part of the imaging, then you end up with a movie at the end. So I'll show you here that similar, same patient, same tumor in a coronal, and this is just a movie playing through, and that's another way of presenting the same information. You can pause it along the way if you'd like to stop at a certain point. So for case notes, this is an example of what I would do. I would put an axial coronal and a sagittal. I can link it to the full MRI like I just showed you. And you can see here that there's a lesion involving the superior colliculus here, the axial, as well as a sagittal. Then I would put in something about the anatomy in my presentation. These are notes I make for myself, but and in this anatomy section, I've highlighted some of the important slides. This is a supracerebellar infratentorial view of a cadaveric specimen. And this is an axial view of that same cadaveric specimen, just to refresh my anatomy knowledge. And if I'd like to take it to more detail, I can click on this hyperlink to the anatomy of the tentorial incisura. Roton's microsurgical anatomy is all online now. You can get it easily if you're a CNS member. You can get this access for free through the surgeon's armamentarium. And after a few minutes, it'll bring up the website. And then here's the surgeon's armamentarium here in the textbooks. If you do this on your own computer, it'll actually pull up the perfect link instead of having to scroll through all of the various portions of it. But here are the things that are available online. You can see that there's all these wonderful resources, all for free, or through your subscriptions. Also, for instance, there's an endoscopic paper that I linked it to. these work better on my computer. But so if I click on this endoscopic supracerebellar infratentorial, then I can pull up this nice PDF that I can scroll through easily just to refresh my memory of it. And here's that case that I did, endoscopic supratentorial, endoscope assisted. Here's the initial approach. You can see the tentorium is here, cerebellum is here. I do these in a sitting position, which is why the veins look like they're on stretch. You can cut those, and for the sake of time, I'll move along here a little bit. And here's the pineal, approaching the pineal region, and using some endoscopic scissors to take those adhesions down a little bit, the arachnoid. And pineal gland is up here. We're starting to look at tectum. You can see all the basal veins of Rosenthal, internal cerebral veins now coming in. Galen will be coming off this way. As we proceed, here's the pineal gland. Here's the tectum coming into view. And then here's the superior colliculus that we're using a dissector to take a nice biopsy of that lesion and then resect this grade 2 astrocytoma. The other very nice resource online for those of you that are dedicated to really learning it and optimizing your learning opportunities outside of the OR is a program called 3D Slicer. It's a free open source software available through Harvard. And what you can do is you can load in your DICOM images. And after you load in the DICOM images, like a volumetric 1mm acquisitions, then you can manipulate the 3D rendering. You can window it however you'd like to fade in or out the brain or the skull. And then you can change the orientation. The difficult part of our surgical approaches is that we're not operating in the anatomic planes, right? We're not operating supine coronal view. Very, very frequently are we doing that. We're almost always operating at some oblique angle, upside down is usually the approach that we're taking to the anatomy. And so getting an understanding of what you're actually going to be looking at in the operative view is extremely helpful. So this takes a little bit of time commitment to understand, but there's tutorials online if you'd like to learn that. And I spent a fair bit of time with this, and it really accelerated my learning process. And this is our state capital here, and the hospital's off to the right. And thank you for your attention. You have any questions?